I'm back for the second video on my channel, Homeschool through High School. My name is Rachel, and in this video I'm going to be talking about the Challenge 2 CC Plus courses and going through each of those specifically and their syllabus. Just as a little bit of review, my name is Rachel. I'm an 11th grader and I've been homeschooled since second grade through Classical Conversations. I live in a fairly rural part of North Carolina. If you are wondering whether CC Plus is a good fit for your family, go check out my first video because that is what it's all about. But if you're wondering which classes your student should consider in Challenge 2, taking it for the first time, this is a big experience, then keep watching in order to learn what my recommendations are going to be. In this video, I'm going to give each of the 5 classes a low, medium, or high recommendation. Just as a side note, I generally would recommend students taking 1 or 2 classes in the fall semester and then several more in the spring semester. That way they don't get overloaded as they're beginning to take dual enrollment for the first time. If your student plans on getting a full associate's through CC Plus, then I would recommend taking all the classes. But if they're not shooting to get 60 credits by the end of high school, or at least 60 credits solely through Southeastern University, then this video is definitely for you, and keep watching to figure out what classes your student should take. So let's jump in. So CC Plus actually shares all the syllabuses for their CC Plus classes with students. So you can look at all of the CC Plus classes and their syllabuses online, and I'll actually share the link for this in the description for the video. But the first class I wanted to cover was Challenge 2 College Algebra, and this is offered in the fall and the spring. So I'm just going to choose one of the semesters. I see one right here. So this is the syllabus for Challenge 2's College Algebra. This is the spring syllabus. The fall syllabus looks very similar. So right off the bat, you can look at some of their curriculums that are required. Of course, you have the Challenge 2 guide, and then you have Saxon Algebra, which I took when I was in CC Plus. I actually didn't take the CC Plus course for this class. I did take through Saxon Algebra 2. However, I chose not to take CC Plus math for several reasons, and I'll get into those later in the section. So you have some optional resources. You get 3 credit hours through the class. Remember, you need 60 credit hours in order to get an associate's. Continuing on, this is just an important note about SEU's grading scale. Here are the drop and the add withdrawal dates, and then here is the syllabus. These are the assignments that you'll need to turn in. So it looks like you have 8 assignments here. Saxon comes with a test booklet, and so you'll submit 8 of their tests. So when you start the class, they'll have expected you to have completed through test 14. If you were taking the fall syllabus, then you would start at the very beginning of the book. I'm assuming all of these tests are probably going to be closed book, but you're not going to have homework assignments you have to submit. It's just going to be these 8 tests. So it's pretty simple as far as requirements go. So what would my overall recommendation for this class be? The actual assignment requirements and work are fairly low. It's not going to be too difficult. However, if you are taking college algebra as a Challenge 2 student, my recommendation would be very strongly to take another level of college math at some point, because colleges, if you're going to a 4-year school, are generally going to look for you to have completed 3 pre-calculus if you plan on getting some kinds of liberal arts degree, and some amount of calculus work if you are planning on being a STEM major. And so having simply completed college algebra isn't going to mean all that much. Now, that said, If you do plan on completing some other amount of college algebra or college math work, or if you need a math credit in order to get an associate's through CC Plus and don't plan on getting your math credit any other way, this would be a very easy, simple option. So if that's the case for you, it would be a high recommendation. But generally, I would give it a low recommendation because I would encourage you to fulfill your math credit for college in other ways through AP or CLEP, for example, that's advanced placement, or CLEP courses. CLEP transfers very similarly to a dual enrollment credit. AP actually has a higher transferability rate, especially if you get a higher score. However, it's a little bit harder to pass this exam. I personally, in order to get my math credit for college, am taking the AP coursework at home and self-studying for an AP class, and then going and taking the AP exam. So I did that for Calculus AB this spring, and I will do that for Calculus BC next spring. And additionally, you can still do all this and get those credits transferred to Southeastern University so that they could still count towards your associates. I would just highly recommend choosing a different option other than college algebra through CC Plus, simply so you can get a higher math that's going to look better on your college or your transcript when you're trying to go to college. So, in the end, low recommendation in general, high recommendation if you don't plan on completing beyond algebra in high school, or if you're only looking to take SEU credits in order to get an associate's. So this is CC Plus's grammar strand. You can take it in the fall and the spring. This is the fall syllabus. You take Latin 1 using Henley's second year textbook. I know that sounds a little strange, but that's the case. You get 3 credit hours by taking the course. If you scroll down, you can see that the grading scale is the same as in college algebra. And here is the syllabus. So I did not take Latin through Henley, or, well, I did take it up through Challenge 2, but I stopped Latin after that. I know many students do. I would encourage you to do it all the way through Challenge 4. And if you do that, definitely this could be a great option for you. You look and you can see they have vocab assignments, they assign exercises. One important thing to note is that all of the translations are from Latin to English and English to Latin. So you are going to be required to translate from both Latin to English and English to Latin. So your student will want to be comfortable doing both if they take this course. They'll want to be comfortable with the vocab and learning vocab quickly. And generally just translating the exercises. From what I've heard from other students, C plus students who've taken the class, it's not a ton of extra work, and everything in the course is on guide, except for the vocab quizzes. But generally, as long as you learn vocab, you should be fine with any vocab quizzes. So overall, I'd highly recommend this course for students who plan on taking Latin through Challenge 3 or Challenge 4. Challenge 3, there is a Latin 2 credit that's offered. In Challenge 4, I don't believe there's any kind of Latin credits that are offered. I chose not to take the CC Plus Latin because I knew I was going to stop doing Latin after Challenge 2, and I was planning on taking dual enrollment Spanish instead. My state only requires 2 years of foreign language, and I didn't want to feel de-incentivized because I had 1 credit of Latin already and feel like I only needed to take 1 credit of Spanish. I wanted to have at least 2 years of foreign language credit, all in the same language. So that's why I chose not to do Latin 1. But as long as your student feels pretty confident with Latin, they are on guide, then this really would be a great option for them. So high recommendation if they feel up to it. If they're not on guide and preparing to be in Henley 2 in the fall or in the spring, because the spring syllabus looks very similar to this, then this course might not be such a great option for them. Biology. Use the same apologia format that you did for physical science. This is just the fall option. You also have the ability to take it in the spring. You're, as I said, using apologia, and through this, you get 4 credits. As you can see here. So that's very typical with all of the science strands because you get a 3 regular class credit and 1 lab credit. The grading scale is the same as the other courses, 94 to 100% for an A. So here is the actual syllabus for the course. And let's talk about what is in the guide and what is not in the guide. Your tests is in the guide. You're required to complete the test. Many people will complete alternate tests. So the alternate tests, in my opinion, are a little bit easier than the ones that are actually designed in the curriculum to take, but technically it is within the CC guide. So you complete the Module 4 lab report. That is within the guide. It's possible they may tell you which lab report. Yes, it says here to complete the lab report for experiment 4.1, and it's the same thing with your other lab reports, 5.2. They tell you exactly which lab report to pick. So whereas in the guide, they would let you pick anyone from that particular chapter, there could be 2 or 3 different experiments that you could possibly do a lab report on. This syllabus tells you exactly which one you need to do the report on. So your next thing is going to be another test, also in the guide, the formal lab report, also in the guide. And then this is the strawberry DNA experiment, which is in the guide. It's a little bit separate than all of the other experiments that are done in biology, but it is, as I said, within the guide. And then you have your quarterly test for modules 5 through 8. This is not within the guide to do. Many parents might still choose to do this as a sort of blue book exam, and it is worth 20% of your grade. It's important. You do need to study all their previous modules in order to do well on it, but this is the only assignment that is really outside of the guide. If you're taking the spring class, then you may be required to do 1 or 2 of these quarterly tests and a set of practice problems in place of one of the lab reports in order to prove that you have competency in all the coursework learned up to that point. So, overall, would I recommend biology? The answer is yes, but I might more strongly recommend if you don't plan on getting a STEM degree, or if you don't know you really want to take biology from the very beginning, choosing to take the spring version of biology, because it's a good idea to get a feeling of whether you enjoy the content of biology or not, because many people really don't. And if you don't, then choosing to fulfill your science credit through chemistry and challenge 3 instead. Now, it's important to note that in chemistry and challenge 3, you do have a high math content, and so you need to be very confident with algebra 2. Otherwise, chemistry might not be such a good fit for you, in which case it is a good idea to do biology. And so generally, I would give it a high recommendation if you know that you'll like the biology content. For example, you've already done it in the fall and now you get the spring credit. A high recommendation if you plan on getting any kind of STEM degree, because you generally want to have more science type credits, even if biology isn't really associated with a STEM degree. But I would give it a lower recommendation if you aren't as confident with biology. I chose not to take this class because I didn't particularly enjoy biology during the fall and didn't want to have to take it in the spring. I chose to wait instead until chemistry, knowing that I had a high math confidence. But if that's not the case for you, then I would definitely recommend biology highly. There aren't very many assignments outside of the guide, so it's not going to be a ton of extra work. And as long as you are generally very competent with getting your research assignments done, then this class would be a great option for you. literature or exposition strand, you get the opportunity to take Composition 1. One important thing to note is that not only are you able to take Composition 1 in both the fall and spring of Challenge 2, but you also have the opportunity to take it in the fall and spring of Challenge 3. So it's not just the challenge, but later challenges that you also have the opportunity to take it. So this is a British literature composition. You can see the class materials: Tale of Two Cities, The Hobbit, Out of the Silent Planet. These are all spring materials. I chose the spring version because that was the version of the CC Plus course that I took, and I can give a little bit more information about that. Again, you get 3 credits for the class. You have a grading scale very similar to all the other classes we've mentioned up to this point. So, talking about the assessments, your first assignment is your Tale of Two Cities essay, which you have to submit anyway according to the CC guide, so it's really not going to be different. You then have your Tale of Two Cities essay revision, which is basically your instructor will edit it, and then you incorporate the edits and include one thoughtful paragraph of reflection of on the revision process. It's very simple, just talking about what you gained, what you experienced, what you learned through the revision. It's technically out of guide, but hopefully if your parents already grade your assignments anyway, you go back and you edit them, so it's not going to be very much different at all. Your timed writing is a different assignment. You sit down, I believe it's for an hour and 15 minutes, but I could be wrong, and you create a timed writing persuasive essay. And this is completely outside the guide, but it's really a very simple process. It's not hard to get a good grade on. Then you have your pre-writing on Out of the Silent Planet. You create an outline giving specific parts of your essay. So like I'd include the introduction and just an outline of how my essay was going to go. Hopefully you already created an outline before your essay, so this wouldn't be too different than submitting an actual essay itself. And in fact, you can see the next assignment is the actual essay, which is also inside the guide. And then you have the Out of the Silent Planet revision. So technically, only 2 of these essays or assignments are completely within the guide. You have 6 assignments total. 2 of the assignments are the 2 revisions are very similar to whatever you'd be doing at home anyway. But your pre-writing and your time writing are slightly different, but they're not very difficult. Even though several of the assignments are a bit out of the guide, I would generally recommend taking this class, really highly recommend taking this class, even if you don't take it in the spring, taking it while you're in Challenge 2, because you're going to have a lot more credits offered in Challenge 3, so it's best to go ahead and get it out of the way. And it really is not very difficult. You'll find that it'll help improve your writing skills very significantly in high school. My MLA formatting is especially what needed work, and that improved a lot. So I would really highly recommend this particular class. It is a core class, so you're going to really have to take this pretty much no matter where you go. And so it's great to go ahead and get out of the way. It's pretty simple and easy. You only have to actually submit 2 of all the essays that you write for this year, and you write many essays, so only 2 of them is really great. And as long as you're a confident writer, then I would give this class a high recommendation. So this class is structured a little bit differently than the other classes. In the fall, you get Western Cultural History 1, and if you want to continue, you can get Western Cultural History 2 in the spring. But in order to get the spring credit, you must take the fall credit. So it's one important thing to note before we talk about the classes. The fall syllabus, again, the spring syllabus is going to be very similar to the fall syllabus. We have 3 credit hours for the completion of the fall class, so 3 credit hours if you complete the spring class. Grading scale is very similar to the other classes again. Continue going down, and here's the grades. So Berlin Hero essay. We have to complete essays for this class on each of the artists. However, the requirements are slightly different for CC+. Certainly, you can still complete the requirements within the guide along the CC+ guidelines. However, they are just slightly more specific. And so you can see they do give some pretty detailed instructions of comparisons and artworks, and really they're very similar to what's in the guide. However, many students will choose to change what is in the guide quite a bit, or at least that was my experience in my class. So it's important to note that you'll have to stick to the guide very closely, and you may have to, in fact, have some more specific things that you have to follow. Now you have to write reflections on your episodes, or each episode you watch. And so these are how then should we live episodes that you'll watch in class. This is not something that's in the guide. It's something completely out of the guide. And I did not take this class. I wanted to, but I didn't start CC Plus until the spring, so I didn't have the opportunity to take it in the fall. I know people who have, though, and so this is not something that should be very difficult. You'll just want to be thoughtful and generally, as they say here, very thoughtful and well crafted. And then you want to have good grammar with your responses, so not very difficult. Then you have a Michelangelo essay, very similar to your Berlin Hero essay. Episode 2 reflection, so that's 4 assignments there. And then you'll have 3 more down here. You have episode 3 and 4 reflection, again outside the guide, your Durer essay, which again within the guide, however slightly more specific, and then your history timeline, which is slightly outside the guide. It's generally recommended for the debate strand throughout challenge that you create a timeline. However, they give you a minimum number of entries, so it's again a little bit more specific. Many students don't do a thorough timeline, so it's great that they actually require this, but outside the guide. So about 50-50 for whether the assignment is within the guide or outside of it. Overall, I would recommend the class. If you're only looking to get 1 or 2 history credits for college, then you could consider waiting until American History in Challenge 3 or World History in Challenge 4. But overall, this should be a great experience for any students. You'll have essays, you'll just want to be very reflective and thoughtful and do a good job completing your assignments at home. Overall, this would get a high recommendation. I think you have a high likelihood of success, and you'll feel very fulfilled because you'll learn a lot taking this class too. Hello everybody, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like it and leave any comments below. If you have any questions or ideas about future videos, I plan on coming out with a video on Challenge 3 and all the courses just like I did for Challenge 2, but I haven't decided if I'll do one for Challenge 4 CC Plus courses or not yet, so let me know if you think that would be helpful. Again, thank you for watching, and please subscribe.